Kaeya was actually really good at applying ice, but that's all he does. That's all he does. He applies ice or he builds bridges for you. There's not more that he does.
His fate closely resembles Amber's, waiting to be replaced by another cryo user. Not only that, but they also deal underwhelming damage.
Dog, this shit is good, okay? As an assist. As an assist, not a main DPS, as an assist.
I'm looking forward to this. This world will be frozen in time. Dodge this! Dodge this!
My goal with this guide is to prove how overlooked Kaeya has been in many of the tier lists you can find on the internet. Not only that, to prove that Kaeya is a perfectly viable free-to-play character with enormous potential for high DPS. I need to point out that this account of mine is near free-to-play. It's not completely free-to-play because I have bought two things. The first thing I bought was the Blessing of the Welkin Moon, because I want to save Primal Gems for when Kaeya gets his banner. And as you can see, I haven't bought any of the Genesis Crystals. I still have the bonus you get on your first buy. And I still haven't spent any of them. The other thing I've bought was the Battle Pass to get the Black Sword for Kaeya. But I have found out that the Prototype Ranker is not only as equal, but I think surpasses the Black Sword later on once you get a high critical rate, which is quite easy for Kaeya because you get 50% with his first constellation, which I don't have now. I still haven't unlocked his first constellation. And the extra 50% you get with the two cryo users for the elemental resonance, which gives an extra 50%. So at total, you can get 30% critical rate, making the Black Sword not necessary for this build. The Prototype Ranker will be the better option later on.
Freeze! What's the hurry? Freeze! Push your luck. Push your luck. What's the hurry? Take this! Freeze!
Body and mind.
so sorry. Freeze! Freeze! Push your luck. Cool it! Freeze!
No excuse for slacking. My duty.
Freeze! This one will be frozen.
Time to work.
Ring cutter.
Time to fulfill my duty.
Cool it!
Back off.
This one will be frozen.
Time for a flash freeze.
Dodge this! Cool it! Don't get frostbite! Swift and merciful!
Back off. Witness the power of good luck.
Dodge this! Don't get frostbite! Freeze! Cool it! This one will be frozen! Dodge this!
No, my sword.
Okay, let's move on now to my Kaeya build. First thing first, let me show you the details of his attributes. My main stats that are currently enhanced to my DPS is my crit rate at 70%, reminding you that this does not count the 15% you get with the extra cryo user on your party, and doesn't count the constellation 50% bonus you also get, but unfortunately I still haven't unlocked that constellation. Now, critical damage is what I'm currently lacking. It's at 104%, and this will be the biggest DPS enhancer for my build. I am currently lacking the artifact that increases, which main option increases the critical damage, which I think will jump this option to around 180%. It will be a huge DPS bonus for my Kaeya, but as I said, this Kaeya build of mine is near free to play, so I didn't get the best artifacts for him right now. My energy recharge is at 132%, mainly because I think that Kaeya's Ascension stats is energy recharge. So the more you ascend Kaeya, the more energy recharge you get. For the other elemental type bonuses, I currently have everything at 0%. I still have to ponder if the physical damage bonus in the Goblet artifact will be better than pure damage. Now for his weapon, I have bought the battle pass that gives me the black sword, but I think that later down the road the prototype ranker will be the best option for him. Let me show you guys here. My level 80 black sword base attack, it's almost near my prototype ranker base attack. As you can see, if I enhance the prototype ranker, the damage will already surpass the Black Sword. And not only that, the physical damage bonus is 28%. And I have the refinement rank 2, being the prototype ranker, the easier weapon to enhance. In this case, to refine. Let me show you here my stats with the prototype ranker. As you can see, the critical rate falls to 44%, basically 45%. So I still get around 60% critical rate with an extra cryo user on my party. And if I get the unlock the first constellation for Kaeya, it will jump to 75% without a weapon that gives critical rate. So because of the cryo user synergy and Kaeya's first constellation, critical rate it's not a problem for him. You're better off focusing on critical damage and damage. Physical damage bonus, the prototype ranker giving this option, but I still have to test if the goblet that gives around 60% physical damage will be better or not than pure attack, because unfortunately the physical damage bonus does not enhance his ultimate and his skill. Now let's move to the artifacts. I personally think that the best set for Kaeya is the Gladiator's Finale with the 4th piece set. Unfortunately, I didn't get good artifacts to complete the 4-piece set. So I'm currently using the Berserker set with the Gladiator Finale. The critical rate, like I said, won't be necessary when I unlock his constellation. As you can see, I still haven't unlocked none of them. So for my artifacts, I was quite lucky on the Gladiator's Destiny, getting critical damage to 40%. It's not like some other users that get around 30%, but it was quite nice to get the Gladiator Destiny with the critical damage option. Elemental Mastery for Kaeya, I think it's not necessary, because his two main elemental reactions will be Superconduct and the Frozen one. Both with Elemental Mastery won't make much of a difference, unless Elemental Mastery actually make the Frozen status persist for longer, which I still haven't tested that. My flower currently is the Berserker Rose, which did get the God Row on the substats, but unfortunately, like I said, it's not the main set I want for Kaeya. But I can't complain because it was a really good rose for the near free-to-play account. My timepiece, I got this today actually. I think while defeating or the wolf or the Dvalin. I was quite lucky to get the critical rate to 10%, but I was actually wanting more critical damage. Unfortunately, it rolled one to the HP and another to the energy recharge. But again, it was quite a good roll because of the critical rate, since I currently don't have Kaeya's first constellation. My Berserker, my Goblet, I got the attack main stat with critical damage and critical rate. Unfortunately, the critical damage was not high enough, but the critical rate it's quite a good stat to have around 6%. And finally, my first 5-star artifact that had a really nice roll. As you can see, almost 9% critical rate and a 40% critical damage with the extra attack. But unfortunately, the Helmet Crown artifact type, it's the only artifact type that can come with the critical damage main stat. So later down the road, I plan on replacing this with one that gets critical damage, because I think it will be around 80% critical damage, which is the stat that my Kaeya build is lacking currently. But it was quite a nice piece for a 5-star, and it helped me quite a lot, especially in the Abyss. So it's quite a good artifact to keep until I get the critical damage one. Moving on to Kaeya's constellation, the biggest constellation you need is the Excellent Blood. This crit rate buff will enhance his skill, Frostgnaw, and will also enhance his ultimate DPS, because the Glacial Waltz can actually critical hit. So his first constellation is crucial. You need to unlock this constellation to reach near maximum performance for Kaeya. I wasn't lucky enough to get him, but I know that some of you guys actually got him. So it's quite the buff for Kaeya, especially if you run an extra cryo user on your party, which will make your critical rate get an extra 30% buff. So you won't need to be needing to focus on critical rate items because of this. For example, I wouldn't be needing to use the Black Sword. I could focus on the prototype Rancor because of the physical damage bonus. Finally, this is what I consider the Kaeya's hidden strength, pun intended. Kaeya's normal attacks. It's the most overlooked element of Kaeya. As you can see, his normal attacks percentage are huge compared to other sword users. Not even Keqing comes close to Kaeya's normal attack damage. This is why I think the Gladiator set is best for Kaeya, because his normal attack damage percentage is huge. If you level up to level 8, his 5th attack damage, that's the teleporting one, goes to 151%. I think Kaeya is the most damaging normal attack sword user and even polearm user. Only claymore users surpass his damage. I think Deluxe go to 190%, but keep in mind that claymore user attacks are actually slower than sword users. Frostgnaw has also a good percentage of damage, and as you can see, I currently have only level 6. And if I unlock the constellation that buff to 3 more levels, I think Frostgnaw will be a really damaging elemental skill. Because as you can see in my boss compilations, it actually gives a nice damage. And Glacial Waltz, while being not really damaging, since you can use this and keep attacking with your main attack, it really buffs your damage. And if you unlock the last constellation for Kaeya, it will add an extra ice. What is it called? It summons icicles. It will add a 4th icicle to the skill, so it will basically enhance the skill by 55%. It's a really strong skill, especially against weaker targets once you unlock the 2nd constellation that will also enhance the duration when you kill a weaker enemy. His Cold-Blooded passive talent, it's really good because it's not only 50% of his attack, it's 50% per target. I think. I know that if you hit 2 enemies at a time, it will trigger twice, so it will actually get 30% of Kaeya's attack. And I think it also gives you more the more targets you hit. And the Heart of Abyss, while it's quite specific, you need to freeze an enemy. The extra elemental particles it gives really makes the glacial walls recharge quite fast, especially with Kaeya's Ascension stat being elemental recharge. Finally, Kaeya's Hidden Strength stamina consumption reduction skill allows him to really dodge enemies' attack. For now, I use a lot of charge attacks, so it doesn't deplete much of my stamina, so I can keep using more charge attacks. So battle-wise and exploration-wise, it's a really strong passive talent. Moving on to what I consider the best team for Kaeya. The first and most crucial one is the Electro damage dealer. I first thought that Fischl was going to be the best support for Kaeya, because Fischl Night Rider, I think it's called. Night Rider skill, the skill that she summons her bird Oz, it's quite damaging, and you can just use that skill and move to Kaeya. But there's one downside to this skill. The way Cryo interacts with Electro, it actually removes the Cryo stats from the enemy. So as long as Night Rider is on the field, you won't be able to make use of Kaeya's first constellation and the second Cryo user critical rate bonus you get.
By royal decree!
Freeze! This one will be frozen in time. Freeze!
So Night Rider actually will lower your DPS. But Fischl alone, if you don't like me, if you don't have unlocked the first constellation, Fischl will actually provide a huge DPS buff to your attacks. She is quite overpowered, especially if you unlocked the skill that enhances her Night Rider skill by 3. But unfortunately, like I said, she will actually remove the cryo debuff from the enemies, which will lower Kaeya's DPS once you have his build complete. So then I thought, I need a Electro skill that triggers only once, that's not constant. And since I had Beidou, I decided to use her, because her Tight Collar skill applies electro damage only once. And not only that, it's quite a good support skill, as you saw me fighting against the Dominator of Wolves, because you can swap to her, block and strong attack, and then swap back to Kaeya and trigger the Superconduct with his low cooldown skills. Both skills I think have only 6 seconds cooldown. Her is 7.5, but it's quite a low cooldown. So you can actually keep activating the Superconduct as soon as it ends. And the Superconduct is the elemental reaction that's enhances most Kaeya's DPS, since you will be using Kaeya's normal attacks to apply most of his DPS. Now goes to the Hydro user that I think is best for Kaeya. Xingqiu is an excellent support unit. His elemental skill has a 21-second cooldown, so you don't need to keep changing to him much. You activate only once, and then you can focus on Kaeya's normal attack. But the thing I find most powerful about the skill, it's not only that it applies the wet status constantly, allowing you to freeze the enemy with Kaeya's ultimate. The thing I find most powerful about this is that it increases the character's resistance to interruption. Since Kaeya DPS, mainly DPS source, will be his normal attacks. And his normal attacks, sometimes it's hard to hit more than one enemy. It's not that easy like a Claymore user, for example. You need a skill that increases your resistance to interruption. And Xingqiu Fatal Rain Screen, it's perfect for this, because not only you can activate it with his normal skill, you can also get back the swords while activating his ultimate, Rain Cutter. So you will constantly have this character resistance to interruption. And not only that, his Fatal Rain Screen swords actually give a damage reduction. As you can see here, I'm currently standing at 24% damage reduction. And later down the road, you get the Hydropathic skill that recovers 6% of Xingqiu max HP to your current character. So Xingqiu is actually a healer. This is such a powerful healing skill that I rarely see my Kaeya falling to low HP. The only downside is that you can't activate the heal on your own. You need to wait the skill to end, or you need to have an enemy attack you, so that the sword will shatter and heal you for 6% of his max HP. Finally, we go to another cryo user. This is the perfect combination, in my opinion, for Kaeya. The Electro to activate the superconduct, the cryo to be the healer and to allow you to freeze your targets, and the cryo user so that Kaeya can make use of the elemental synergy that you get with 2 cryo users on your party. The elemental resonance. You get an increased critical rate by 15% as long as the enemy are frozen or affected by cryo. It's the same thing with Kaeya's first constellation. It's 50% as long as the enemy is affected by cryo. Since frozen enemies are naturally affected by cryo, it's the same thing.
Seems all the other knights already
So
have
going
their
back to
hands
the
full.
cryo user, I think Chongyun is a terrible assist and party member for Kaeya, because his elemental skill actually convert the physical damage to cryo damage. The downside to this is that superconduct only reduces elemental physical resistance. So if you activate superconduct, then convert your damage to cryo, you won't be making use of the physical resistance reduction. So I think it's a terrible cryo user to use along with Kaeya. But since it's the only extra one I have, it's the one I'm currently using. This passive talent of his would be perfect for Kaeya, because it boosts the attack speed of normal attacks by 8%. But since it converts the damage to cryo, I think the Chongyun is a terrible cryo user to use along with Kaeya. I was thinking about Chi-Chi, but not only is a 5-star character hard to get, I think Diona, the new one that's coming, will be the perfect assist for party member for Kaeya, because not only she is a bow user, which my party is currently lacking, I think she will also come with healing abilities, and I hope she comes with an ability that increases main character DPS. I hope she gets to be a support unit that not only heals, but also gives a sort of damage buff for the main character. So there we have it, guys. My Kaeya build video guide. I hope that it helps a lot of you guys, especially the free-to-play players that might be having a hard time to find a main DPS for their party. And I hope that I've managed to show that Kaeya does have a potential to be a really strong DPS main, especially consider that I still don't have the 4th piece Gladiator set, nor the headpiece with the critical damage option. These two little things, I think, will enhance my Kaeya DPS by quite the margin. And even though I have the Black Sword, I can see that the Prototype Ranker is just as a good weapon for Kaeya. Even the Harbinger of Dawn, I think. But sadly, I used all of mine to enhance my 4-star weapons, which was a mistake. But as you can see, you don't need to spend money to make Kaeya a strong main DPS. The only reason I did myself is because I'm quite satisfied with Genshin Impact. It provided me quite a lot of fun playtime. Hence why I wanted to support the game, especially after seeing the 1.1 teaser that makes me believe that Genshin Impact might revolutionize the gaming market. For good and for bad. I'm quite aware of the resin problem. It has been a problem for me also. But as a free-to-play game, it has a lot of good things going for it. The story, the character development, the soundtrack. The soundtrack itself is a masterpiece. So that is the reason why I wanted to spend, I think, around $10 on my currency if I convert. So it's not much to support a game, but at least it's something. So anyways, thank you for watching and good luck on Genshin Impact.